Welcome, everyone, to yet another exciting webinar. And following Dr. Cavaskill's reminder about the pedagogy workshop, we look forward to you joining us later in May this year for yet another impactful learning experience for all of us. This is Junaid Evir again. I'm the faculty director at Georgia State University CIBER, and this webinar is part of the series we've been doing for more than 5 years now. We've completed the 5th anniversary and reaching to almost 100 such webinars. And thank you for joining us from all around the world, I'm sure. So it's a good morning, it's a good evening, it's a good afternoon for some, or maybe good night for someone who's up in the middle of the night. But regardless of it, this webinar series has been going on with a lot of interest from around the world and is offered to you, brought to you by the GSU-CIBER on behalf of the MSI Cyber Consortium, consisting of 10 other cybers. And we had a lot of interest in registration to today's webinar, which basically underlines that the topic is relevant and that a lot of people are eager to learn from some best practices. Now, just a couple of reminders in terms of operational things. Those who have attended the webinars before would know these, but all our webinars are recorded. So, and the recording will be made available after the session, after a little bit of editing in a couple of days on our website, on our YouTube channel. And secondly, once the webinar is over, there will be a brief feedback survey that we would appreciate if you would respond to assess the webinar and give us recommendations or suggestions in moving forward. In this webinar, everyone except the panelists are muted, but we do highly encourage you to ask any questions or share any comments you may have on the topic discussed. Please use the Q&A button for asking your questions and sharing your comments. And if you have some operational questions, please use the chat function for queries to the staff. So, and if there is any handout, it will be again shared with you after the session through email. Well, what is today's topic and speaker, and what are we going to be doing? Well, today we are very much privileged to have Dr. Daghli, Murad Daghli, with us. And I'm sure most of you would know him, but just a couple of reminders. He's a professor and associate dean for International Student Engagement and Partnerships at the Robinson College of Business, Georgia State University. Well, what a better person could be to talk about international partnerships in higher education. So he's earned his PhD in International Business and Management from the Moore School of Business at the University of South Carolina. And his extensive experience, both on the professional and academic side, basically spans 4 continents and over 24 countries. He's a recognized experiential and practice-based learning leader and frequently publishes on topics such as cross-border partnerships, study abroad programs, innovative teaching methodologies, which has also brought him a number of accolades, having received the 2021 Robinson College of Business Teaching Excellence Award or the 2020 GSU Instructional Innovation Award. He's also a faculty affiliate of the Atlanta Global Studies Center and the Middle East Studies Center, and leads a number of signature international programs in various African countries and the MENA region. And last but not least, he also holds business analytics, Six Sigma, and online teaching certifications. So we're very much privileged to be with Dr. Daghli, and I want to welcome you to our webinar and thank you for your time to share your expertise and experience with us. So, today's topic, leveraging international partnerships for student success. Well, when I read the word international and partnership, well, it's like joining forces, realizing that no one can do it alone or as impactful as a joint force. So I'm really interested, Dr. Daghli, like what does really these international partnerships in higher ed mean? And like, what do they impact? And how do they impact, and how do you assess? I know it's a loaded question, and we'll be opening up different layers. But as an introduction, would you please share with us the overview of what we're talking about?
Thank you, Junaid, and thank you to CIBER for giving us another opportunity to share some of our thoughts and pedagogical innovations and experiences with wider audiences. On the question of partnerships, It's a very, very large umbrella, and so many things can fit under that. One of the things that I would say are some of my favorite partnerships to pursue are those that develop organically through existing relationships. So we have faculty members who go to conferences, they go to teach in different places, they are affiliated with other universities. And I think those develop organically into much more meaningful type of arrangement that affect multiple stakeholders. You also have, and we have been receiving quite a few of these in the last year, those emails that say we are interested in partnering with Georgia State University and with the Robinson College of Business. Those partnerships tend to be driven by some type of ranking. For example, in the EMBA, we were recognized in Financial Times, and we were recognized in so many outlets. Others see that and they reach out to us and say we are interested in partnership in this specific domain. We also have seen that type of interest in healthcare, healthcare management. We've seen that interest in analytics, and we've seen that interest in computer information systems. So some of these programs that have done very well as far as ranking sometimes ignite interest and drive inquiries from different schools from around the globe. Others really are legacy partnerships. We some of our partners we had for many years, and so glad that they continue. We have partnership, for example, with AIU Sorbonne. That's about 27 years. We have one with Poznan, which is about 30 years. So we have quite a few of those legacy partnerships in there. And these partnerships, depending on the interest, could involve faculty exchange. Our faculty travel to teach, and their faculty come here. They have visiting scholars or otherwise. One of the most common ways of building these partnerships is through a very standard process of student exchange. So students, come from one semester or 1 year, take classes here, and those classes are transferred to their home countries. One thing we are looking at right now is Erasmus Plus. Erasmus, which is a European system to promote mobility. It used to be within Europe. Now the US and other countries are involved in it, and we want to be part of that. So these are much more student mobility focused. And of course, we have partnerships that are a little bit more involved, and these are programmatic in nature. So here we are talking about dual degree type of programs. They can take quite a bit to materialize, but once they're in place, of course, it's a question of renewing those. And we have a few of those with different partners in Europe and Asia. So like I said, it's quite a wide portfolio of partnerships. Some of them come from different stakeholders, but at the end of the day, really, we want to make sure that these are valuable for us. And I'm happy to share, if you allow me, a 1 or 2 slides to visualize some where these partnerships are located and how we go about looking at those.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, we would love to see some things that have materialized and have been ongoing. And you just mentioned some of your partnerships are more than like 25, 27 years. Well,
Yes.
there must be some value created there that everyone
Yes.
is continuing to this relationship. So
Yes, exactly. And I hope that you are able to see my
yes, we can.
my slides. Okay, so what you're looking at here is a world map, but these are countries where we have different forms of partnerships. So some of these involve, the mobility, student exchange. Some of them involve faculty exchange, and some of them involve virtual exchange, which has really developed over the last few years for us as being a big part of how we engage globally for multiple reasons. So you're looking at this map here. Of course, like I mentioned, we have quite a few schools that are interested in partnering with us. And of course, every now and then we look at these partnerships to see, how valuable these are and what do they mean for us. And one thing we have developed over the last couple of years is this set of rubrics. So how do we assess these partnerships? We actually have these numbers. Each one of these dimensions has about 5, 6, 7 questions in it. But we look at the most important piece for us is the impact on students. To what degree does this partnership affect student recruitment for us, elevating student experiences for us, or affecting student success? So that's a very big dimension for us. And we have, like I said, a set of questions that we ask to be able to answer that, that question and assess to what degree these partnerships are valuable for our students. The other is impact on faculty. And here, to what degree does the partnership affect research, teaching, professional development? So how does this partnership create value for our faculty? Other considerations is impact on the Robinson brand. Does engaging in this partnership affect our brand, our presence, and our footprint in other countries? And this is very important for us. We are a large school of business. We are serious about globalization and internationalization and engaging with schools from around the globe in meaningful ways. And I think that has a direct impact on our brand. The other considerations are financial, and this is, of course, is an important aspect for evaluating partnerships. Some of these examples might see us provide training programs or executive ed or bring students, graduate or undergraduates, and that has, of course, financial considerations. So these are 4 dimensions. They're not exhaustive, of course. One can look at other variables, but I think we have been able to do a better job using these set of rubrics that has, like I said, multiple questions within each one of these dimensions to provide a little bit more structure and rigor in terms of how we approach and evaluate partnerships and their impact on different stakeholders for us.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very illustrative, Murad. And I believe, it's a very nice framework. Simplifying a very rather complicated initiative. And I assume that the partner school could also use a similar set on their behalf, like what's the impact on their faculty, what's the impact on their financials or on their brand. So it's a mutually usable rubric. Good for that. You mentioned a couple of examples in your talk, and one word kicked me out, like virtual exchange. Now, the word virtual, some people knew about it, but now I guess it's like everybody knows it, especially after the COVID kind of taught everyone the hard way. So I understand the exchange, that there is mutual sharing of something or joining, but what does the virtual element mean in the exchange process? Could you elaborate on that? What do you mean by those kinds of partnerships? How you determine their value, etc.?
I think the naming of it might be also a bit add a little bit to the confusion, because it's meaningful exchange. It's for us, really, for at least for the Robson College so far, it has been all about building global collaborative teams. It's working with partners. We have partners. You saw that on the map from around the globe, and creating these mixed cross-border, cross-cultural teams that work on significant challenges, the consulting projects and innovation challenges and what have you. So basically for us, virtual exchange, which the university has really kind of emphasized quite a bit and is supporting in so many different structures and through committees and through resources. It has really been for us the flagship type of partnership. And we actually do have an agreement that we signed with our partners around virtual exchange. Given our student profile, but I believe 60% of our students are on Pell Grants. So I think our students in general are, the majority don't have the $5,000 sitting there.
There might be a connection issue, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so too. But as long as you can hear me.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Now it's back.
So I was talking about the kind of the student profile here at Georgia State. That's we cannot expect every student to have that money set aside to be able to partake in a study abroad program. And also, even with the scholarships, I was asking my students, why don't you go on this program? This is the right program for you. And an outstanding student that could receive scholarships. But he said, if I travel even with my study abroad being covered, I lose the money I make. He works at a restaurant. So who's going to make up the money? For me. So we recognize the profile of our students, and I think virtual exchange has really kind of come to the rescue. We were given the mandate to develop an impactful signature international experience and develop it at scale. And I think virtual exchange here or global collaborative teams has been the way for us to build these teams, build these impactful signature experiences, and build high impact practices as part of this collaborative venture. And it has really paid off very, very well. So we do this at scale. I think so far we have impacted over 5,000 students. Here at Georgia State, we have worked with partners from Brazil to Colombia to Argentina to Portugal to Finland, Turkey, Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt, South Africa, Indonesia, and I know I'm leaving out about a dozen other partners. But over the last few years, we have been very conscious and very proactive in building these partnerships, because they start with in-person relationships or with building on faculty partnerships, as I mentioned earlier, and building on these relationships and bringing students into the same space to work together. So they have to deal with the challenges of differences in cultures, differences in time zones, differences in mindset. And again, this is a low-cost way to engage globally. But if you look at how things are getting done today, companies get done through virtual teams, right? And they are a big part of how we do this. And they have been this kind of approach to building meaningful, impactful international experiences really has paid off for us. And students tell us that, and our data that we collect tells us that we are building these competencies, and we are really making the students more career ready by having them engage in this virtual setting, by working over the length of the semester with partners from around the globe.
Great. Well, I mean, I can attest to what you just said, because in one of the courses that I also teach, we're using virtual exchange, and the feedback coming from the students is just reflecting having a direct experience of what the real world is like when you do international business, working across time zones, working across with people that come from a different culture, different business etiquette, etc. But that's the reality, and it's a great learning experience. That's great. We're getting some questions in, which I'll get back to you on that. But could you also complete the picture? I mean, we got the benefits of virtual exchange and what kind of impact it does. What are the key success factors? Like, where do you start? How do you start? And what are the fundamental key success factors so that everyone kind of receives those benefits you just mentioned?
Very good. So as I mentioned earlier, we do use surveys. We have very well established surveys, and we use reflection essays, and we use in vivo. So we have been very conscious and like I said, structured in how we assess these partnerships and how we assess the impact on the student. As a matter of fact, thanks to our dedicated PhD student who has been really working on all of these assessment tools. We, like I said, thousands and thousands of data points, and now we collect this information from our students and our partner universities too around the globe. So we are very confident, and we're very proud. We presented on this Academy of International Business, and we just published a paper at the AIB Insight, talking about some of the signature experiences and their impact, and sharing some of the data that shows the elevation of the student competency skills, cultural awareness skills, and ability to deal with the challenges of working with others in different countries. So we are very pleased to see the positive impact. Having said that, we also, one way we can make a strong argument for how the work we do impact student success is through embedding high impact practices. High impact practices, as defined by the American Association of Colleges and Universities, are a set of practices that have been proven to link to career readiness and career attainment. So for us, we consciously built many of these projects into high impact practices. I have one slide, if you allow me, I'll go ahead and share it.
Okay.
That kind of visualizes what I'm talking about here. And let me see. And I'm going to go to this slide. Please let me know if you're able to see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Very good. So the high impact practices are here. They're talking about global learning and research, community-based learning, common intellectual experiences, capstone experiences, and collaborative teamwork. So all of these have been very well researched and very well addressed as really high impact experiential activities that develop the students and bridge the gap between academia and practice as far as the student is concerned. And these create value through greater engagement, through promoting critical thinking, promoting analytical skills, getting the students to work in teams, in collaborative setting, getting the students to integrate different pieces throughout their curriculum, and they broaden the perspective. So these projects that we have embedded are aligned with high impact practices. As a matter of fact, when we sit down as a team, and this, Junaid, and we look at the project, we are very conscious about making sure that these are high impact practices. We don't just get students to talk, we get them we give them a challenge, and we give them a challenge that we know is going to be rewarding. So these challenges is how we make the claim that these lead to student success. And I'm happy to share some examples of how we have about 4 or 5 of these high impact practices that we go back to all the time. And we are very happy that from anecdotal evidence, from data, qualitative and quantitative, we are able to achieve the goals we have. And I'm happy, like I said, to go into examples if we have the time.
Okay, great. We'll look forward to that. In due time, we're getting some questions, as I said. And since this virtual exchange involves 2 institutions, the question is, how do you reconcile different curricula in virtual exchange partnerships? That's a very practical question. So what's your
Excellent question. Excellent question. And we had, by the way, projects that did not work very well because there was that commitment from the faculty. We are excited, we want to do this, but there was not as much alignment as far as curriculum. And I think that's a very important question. I would say what we have done on our side is develop a portfolio of projects. So we do not go to the partner and say, this is a project, we want your students to engage with us. You have to sit down with the faculty. These are faculty-led projects, of course, right? We do receive support from the deans, and we do receive support from the provosts, and even sometimes presidents of universities that are excited about this. They're happy to work with us. But that can only go so far, right? So the institutional support is great, but at the end of the day, these are faculty-to-faculty type of project. And the faculty, when they are matched, they are the one who are going to conceive, implement, assess, and repeat these experiences. I would say that one has to be aware of the fit between the different courses because these experiences are embedded in courses. We are fortunate here at the Institute of International Business in that we teach international business. And if you know anything about international business, it's cross-functional. International business includes trade, investment. Those are economics topics. It includes a market assessment. That's the marketing topic. It includes culture, and we can even work with psychology type students. It includes human resources, financial, international finance, currency, and all of those things. So we find that has worked out very well for us in that we were able to work with partners in many different fields. We have projects even with the University of Gabes in Tunisia and others. These are not even business students; they're media students, right? And then we have art students. So that has worked out very well for us. Having said that, there should be a conscious effort to align goals and align content so that students are not struggling in their project, even though we know very well that bringing different competencies and different functional areas does nothing but elevate the project. So some of my favorite projects, for example, I teach in the Master of International Business program. Some of my favorite projects are those that are submitted by folks with different functional areas. We have people who come from psychology, people who come from sociology, people who come from engineering, people who come from business. And those tend to create very, very powerful teams just because of different perspectives that are brought in. So we're happy to work with different partners in different fields, but that has to be addressed from the get-go so that you are able to align learning objectives for 2 different courses. And there's always 2 or 3 objectives that you might have in common, even if the topic is different.
Great. Great, great. I want to follow up with another question from one of our attendees. You made reference to running projects, like maybe some consultancy projects, some company projects, etc. The question, I'll just read out the question to you, is in what ways outside the walls of the academy is value created by bridging town and gown with the geographical communities GSU serves? For example, does international business efforts or do international business efforts benefit the communities of those Pell Grant recipients?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm going to start with an anecdote. We did a live case in Morocco, and I'll talk about those examples. And we had a student that actually was able to participate in a live case for a U.S. company, Procter and Gamble. That's the company that I'm talking about. And the student was able to participate and do a project with the Procter and Gamble, and he was being interviewed, and it so happened that the interview was with Georgia Pacific, and the interviewer was very intrigued because Georgia Pacific is actually one of their largest client is Procter and Gamble. Procter and Gamble buys a lot from Georgia Pacific. We have many of these anecdotes or many of these examples that the students as a stakeholder benefited from these experiences and benefit from the fact that the companies where they do some of these consulting projects are interested in these projects. I have one of the companies here in Atlanta reached out to us and said, tell me more about this virtual exchange thing. Tell me more about what you do with the students. And we shared this with them and actually invited us to do a presentation on how we put students in teams together to solve innovation challenges. One of the companies is Schneider Electric. It's a French company. And we had a project where our students worked again with peers. I forgot which country they worked with. But Schneider Electric liked our project and they reached out to us. So it was an innovation challenge. And we actually made it all the way to the finals. We were in the top, I think 12 teams out of 700 teams. They gave job offers to the team, to the folks in our team, and I mean, Schneider Electric or UPS or Georgia Pacific, they're not doing this out of the kindness of their hearts, even though I like to think they're wonderful people working there, but they're scouting for talent. So by developing these competencies, we're developing global talent that companies like UPS, like Delta, like Georgia Pacific, like Schneider Electric can leverage. So we are creating value by making sure that our students are career ready and they are global career ready. So that's the value that we are providing companies and the value that are providing different stakeholders beyond the students, of course.
Well, it's just fascinating to hear that you're fulfilling the absolute need to bridge the town and the gown, or as our attendee put it, or academia with practice, because that link basically results in the impact we're all looking for. That's great. Well, switch gears, Murad. In your introduction, you also made reference to, in addition to virtual exchange, to study abroad programs.
Yes.
And so if we switch gears on that, would you please elaborate on study abroad, like what they are, what their distinguishing characteristics are, what are they particularly impactful on? And we will start with that. And I'm sure we're going to open up other examples and any examples, of course, that you would like to share.
Yes, thank you. Study abroad, I mean, there are still the probably most high-touch experiences that students can have. You know, these, and of course, we love virtual exchange. We love these global collaborative teams. We have done so much in that space. But I still believe that nothing compares to the person-to-person interaction. So when I take my students to different countries, and many of my colleagues do the same. So we take them to South Africa, we take them to Morocco, we take them to Dubai and Spain and Brazil, and have colleagues here at the Institute of International Business that cover Latin America, Africa, Asia. These are very high touch and quite demanding initiative to put together, but they are very impactful, obviously. And I'd like to share an example with you. It's on one of my own programs. We took students to Morocco on a study abroad, and we embedded in the study abroad program certain experiences, such as consulting experiences and volunteering experiences in there. We had joint lectures, and the students, were sitting around the tables with their colleagues from, I believe this one from Esca, Morocco. And it was very, very meaningful experience. And we were walking down the Corniche by the seaside, and then the students saw a group of Moroccan guys playing football, soccer. So they joined them, and it ended up being a 3 hour, 4 hour affair. We were done with the day, so basically they spent the rest of the day playing with their new friends, there on the beach in Casablanca. We did the evaluation at the end of the program, and we list all of the activities and say which one you like the most, from 1 to 5. Of course, we overdo it with all this assessment. And guess what experience was the most impactful, mentioned by most of the students there, is this unplanned experience of our students joining these random guys on the beach and playing football. So we can play all you want, and we spend so much effort and time aligning all of these activities, and then something random happens, and that happens to be the most rewarding and amazing experience the student had. And I think those type of unexpected unplanned events sometimes can be very, very powerful. And I could tell you, multiple other experiences. I had one student who never been on an airplane, and actually a student from Georgia who never been to the beach. And we do have students, right? When I talked to her, she said, the conversation in our household is not, well, which beach you're going to go to, right? It's which bill you're going to pay, right? So that, but she, an outstanding person, was able to secure enough funding to go on a study abroad. And she was emotional, standing by the beach there. And I asked her, I said, what's going on? And she said, if I look this way, I'm looking back at the US. And this is the very first time she actually sees the ocean. So those type of experiences, especially for our students, they cannot be replaced, and I wish, honestly, if I had one wish, is for all our students to experience one travel exploration with different cultures and different countries, because those can be really far above and beyond anything we can do. It's whether with all the things we plan and all the things that we don't plan. So study abroad are meaningful. We have always embedded experiences in study abroad, and looking back, students always, even EMBAs, not just undergraduate students, even EMBAs look back at the program. They just came back from South Africa, as a matter of fact. They look back and they say, this has been the most impactful experience, professionally, academically, but also personally.
Wow. Well, as one of our attendees has noted as well. These are amazing stories, Murad. As we're moving forward, I'm sure you're going to share some examples further on to illustrate these visits, but I want to catch up with some of the questions that appear to be related to the virtual exchange site. And one of the questions is, how do you select students for these? That was one specific question. And how do you make sure that the deliverables are of high quality? What's the role of the faculty member? Is the faculty rewarded, etc.? So it's a bunch of questions kind of relating to, I guess, how it's operationalized in terms of the conduct.
Great questions, great question, and question that we have debated for quite some time, and we still debate, especially on the faculty question there on faculty incentive and faculty reward. We incentivize the students by providing a badge. So we are thankful that the university pays for a badge. It's called the Virtual Exchange Badge. The students love it. When they don't get it, they start emailing and calling. It's like, where's my badge? So that means something to them. And they put it on their LinkedIn and their portfolio and all of that. It is a lot of work. So in my class, I have a virtual exchange right now with students from Morocco. I don't just have 50 students, I have 100 students, but I have a colleague from Morocco that I'm working with, and we have colleagues in Turkey and Indonesia and South Africa that we are working with. Your question about the students, it depends. We do not make the experience optional for the students. As a matter of fact, we were given the mandate to develop a cutting-edge course, Global Business, and our dean wanted that course to have a signature, impactful international experience that's done at low cost and done at scale. We looked at multiple experiences, and virtual exchange again came to the rescue, and we decided that having students work in teams with peers from around the globe, and we engage in building these relationships, over a span of about a year and a half to 2 years. And having virtual exchange as a mean to create these high impact practices was the way to go. So our core business requirement is called in the BBA program, called Global Business, has this experience embedded in it, which means that we do it at scale. We do it for about 500 students of ours across 10, 13, 15 sections, and they are matched with about an equal number. So this is why the numbers are in the thousands, because every semester we have thousands of students hours and partner students do this. I was at the conference, and I think we do it at a much larger scale and much more impact. And I believe with the support of the university, with much more rigorous approach to assessment, to delivery, to support. Your question on support is right on target. We have dedicated GRAs, so we work to deal with the dean's office, and every faculty member who runs a virtual exchange has a virtual exchange graduate assistant helping that faculty member. This has, of course, supports the faculty member, but also in some of the most challenging projects, we have mentors from the business community. So we have a group of mentors. Many of them are alumni from our master programs here. Some of them are from the business communities, and thank you to the mentors, whether it's Don Williams and Jennifer Matluthi and Wilson, Todd, and others. These are mentors that volunteer their time and effort. We have what's called a virtual mentorship model, where they have time available and the students stop by and ask questions, or students can post questions in iCollege, and we share these with the mentors, and they answer these questions. So we call them mentors because we like that term, as opposed to advisors and what have you. But that has really proven to be very, very helpful in this kind of high touch, demanding project. That some of them I will mention, and in some cases our partners also provide the support, from their end. So we have drop-in hours. In this semester, we have 5 days a week drop-in hours, because we train the GRAs together, and teams can stop by any day of the week to ask questions, to contact with the mentor, with the faculty on our side or their side. And I think it's critical that we provide this type of support. There's no question that these are demanding projects. We have working in teams is challenging anyway. So working in teams in virtual settings and working in teams in international setting with different cultures. I mean, you multiply the difficulties by fourfolds, right? I mean, let's be honest. We have to have realistic preview. So to that end, we really need to be very conscious and very proactive about providing this support through graduate assistants, through mentors, and through this drop-in hours and everything else. So we learned the hard way, through trial and error. And I think we're at a time now where our support for the students is solid. For the faculty support, we actually have an interest group on virtual exchange. We meet on a regular basis. We have a website, dedicated iCollege site with examples, with resources, with videos, you name it. I think we do, and I can safely say this, probably better than probably any other school around the globe. If not, we're maybe in the top 2 or 3 as far as leading virtual exchange, designing projects for virtual exchange, and assessing virtual exchange, and then elevating virtual exchange so it's embedded in high impact practices and embedded in student success initiatives. I know this because we have been presenting on this. We have at least 20 different papers that were presented, and conferences, and people from around the globe, in Asia, Africa, US, and others, come to us and to ask us for advice and guidance on how to roll these at scale and how to assess them and what are some of the best practices. We've done it through trial and errors over the last 12 years, and we're at a point now we're happy to share our experiences with everyone.
Well, that's so nice to hear. I mean, you don't just have the expertise or experience, but actually are open to sharing it, as you're doing it right now, and maybe to take it steps further with other links to be established. You mentioned difficulties. Yes, international business has its own peculiar differences, and there was a question from the audience in regards to some of those differences, practical differences, such as how do you get around time zone difference?
Yes.
That's one. And how do you get around the fact that not all universities operate on the same calendar in terms of when they start classes, when they end classes, etc. So how do you deal with those two practical aspects?
Yes, excellent question. As far as time zone, when you look at NCR, when you look at Google, when you look at Microsoft, they have global teams working, right? So time zones is a difficulty that's always mentioned in all the feedback from the beginning, except when they are working with their partners in Colombia or in Brazil or in Argentina, where we have partners. If you are working with South Africa or working with Turkey, working with Indonesia or working with India, time differences, just like anywhere else. I always say this to my students. My job is not to make things easy for you. My job is to make things real.
Yeah.
The reality is time zones exist. The reality is cultural differences exist. So we have to be careful about trying to make things simpler and easier and helping the students overcome. Students struggle because sometimes it's hard for them to reach the team. One of the tools we use is called project charter. So the first things teams get together to do is they have to do a project charter. Let's agree on how are we going to communicate, who is going to lead, how are we going to follow up. And the first task is come up with a team name. And the team name is not just a random team name. It's a team name that represents everyone in the team. So, for example, one of my teammates call themselves Barcelona because it just so happens that they all like the team Barcelona. You know, some of them wanted to go to Barcelona, and now they like the soccer team Barcelona. One of the more creative names was, and I love this one, is Peach Jaconda, because peach is of course means a lot for us here in Georgia, and the jaconda tree means a lot in South Africa, especially in the Pretoria area. They're all over the place. One team call themselves Team Purple because two like the color red and two like the color blue. All right. So we try to ease them into this challenging project by making this kind of low risk type of assignment, but they are very meaningful because you actually are able to create some type of familiarity, some type of easy way of engaging with your teammates. Having said that, we want them to experience time zone differences, and we don't want them to struggle through that, and we want them to also understand the difficulties. I think as long as the commitment is there, of course, not every student is highly committed. Sometimes teams become dysfunctional, and we have to find ways around them. But I believe that realistic previews are important. Monitoring is important. We have a system where from the first week, students have some kind of deliverable. It could be even a comment. It could be a note. It could be a discussion thread. So we have to keep teams engaged. We have those tools. Are they 100% proof? No, as we know, we cannot control student 100%. Things happen, and sometimes teams collapse. But we try our best to support them along the way. And the graduate assistants do help, as they have this drop-in hours on a weekly basis. So we try to overcome the challenges, but of course, like in any other classrooms and any other project and any other high impact practices, you cannot solve all the problems, but you can do your best to do so.
All right, great. Well, I mean, time flies basically. So we're in the last quarter of the time allocated to us. So I just want to make sure we complete the picture with two other dimensions to running these partnerships, which you've elaborated with great examples. One of them is obviously something, although you mentioned that some of these are very low cost kinds of operations, you may still need some support because you've been mentioning about GRAs or some other operational things. So I want to switch gears to the practical side of what are your thoughts or strategies to get funding for such partnership-based initiatives? Like what kind of third-party funding sources are available, or what are the key success factors to get access to such funding? And if you could kind of elaborate on it with some examples, I think that would make life easier to move ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do so. We were fortunate because of our record engaged in virtual exchange from 2014. So, 2013, 2014, we've been engaged. So we had a good story to share, and we applied Leanne, Lou, and myself applied for a grant through the Department of Education, and so I know the context is quite interesting for any federal grant. But we were fortunate in that a lot of the work that we provide in the beginning through virtual exchange, through building these relationships, through graduate assistantships, engaging partners, mentors, was supported by a grant from the Department of Education. That was a 2-year grant to develop global competencies in turbulent environment, and the grant was focused on Africa. More recently, we secured another grant as of about 6 months ago. That grant from the Department of State, and that grant also leverages virtual exchange and other means of collaboration to create high impact experiences for our students. So we are fortunate in that we had earlier smaller grants to support minor initiatives, but I think the Department of Education grant that ended last December, and the new grant from the Department of State through the Aspen Institute. The Stevens Initiatives is really the anchor for this one. And the Stevens Initiative is an initiative to promote virtual exchange and to promote virtual collaboration across countries, especially in the MENA region. So our work kind of fits very well within that framework, and we were successful in securing the second grant from the State Department. Having said that, the university also has micro grants for faculty, so faculty can apply for these grants to get started with virtual exchange, and some of these startups require in-person visits. So that's very important if you want to build a solid partnership. I think even if it's virtual exchange, it's important to build it on in-person visits and looking at the school, looking at the context, and building it on a solid foundation.
Great examples. Very concrete, very concrete. And may I add that, I mean, for those of our attendees who are joining us from other continents, other countries, etc. So do you know whether other governments, other states also have similar like grant openings, like the European Union, maybe, or United Nations, or things of like either at the global scale or at the local country level? They might have some grant opportunities within themselves to kind of support our partners. Have you had experience on that, or could that be another way for our foreign partners?
Absolutely, and probably more so today than ever before. That's one thing I and my colleagues have been doing. And yes, I am aware, of course, the Erasmus Plus, which has physical mobility. There is actually, there are grants, especially I've seen a few from Northern Europe, Sweden, Denmark, and others, to promote online collaborative efforts, similar to what we have here as virtual exchange. So yes, European Union does provide grants for high impact practices that are online. Our partners have also been very keen on this. As a matter of fact, some of our partners expanded beyond Georgia State, and now they are doing virtual exchange with other universities. So they believe in the value of it, and they want to scale it up and work with others. So I know that partners in Morocco and partners in Egypt, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Brazil or Argentina, one of the two, they are proactively seeking and providing funding for their faculty to engage in virtual exchange. It's part of their assessment, it's part of their internationalization, and so they have a keen interest in, especially when many of our partners are seeking AACSB accreditation, and internationalization, of course, is a big component for that. So they're very keen into building these, and many of our partners have moved beyond just our dyadic relationship to really bring in more.
That's so great. That's so great. You're just giving the, what do you call it? I guess the initial push, and then like everybody is kind of moving along that direction. I just need to share 2 comments with you, Murat.
Yes,
one was a question about putting it into how do you integrate this virtual exchange process within MSI, and coming from Kathleen, I believe, one of our attendees. So that's one question you may want to follow up, or she may want to follow up with you after the session. And there's a thanks to you personally from Lumkila, who's saying that he's coming to Atlanta in June and would like to take the discussion further. Yes. And sharing that they've enjoyed the session. So after sharing those kinds of remarks to that, there's another question in the Q&A. I mean, questions are pouring in, so I'm just trying to keep all of them. Not to miss any, but this question says, do you have any articulation agreements or a dual degree programs with overseas universities? You kind of mentioned this, but if you can kind of summarize.
Yes, yes, of course. We do have, yes, we do have, I'm sharing a slide as I'm talking, and because you mentioned them, Keela. But yes, we do have, of course, we have articulation. As a matter of fact, now we have a standard articulation agreement for virtual exchange projects, thanks to the Office of International Initiative and their outstanding team there. They support us in making sure we have an agreement in place now. It's a meaningful endeavor, so it's there. But we also do, of course, dual degree, faculty exchange, joint conferences, joint research. So there's like I mentioned, the whole gamut, and some of them are informal, where faculty visit back and forth, and some of them have, of course, like I said, some of these are 30-year-old, and we have this agreement, dual degree agreement, and transfer agreement, and student mobility, and you name it. But if you don't mind, I want to, since you mentioned this, I love this picture. I wanted to share it. We have a
Sure.
project. We have a project with the University of Witwatersrand. Witwatersrand is one of the top schools in Africa, an amazing, amazing school. And we had a visiting scholar, visiting actually Mandela fellow, and Yusanda Jikwaro, and looking at how important it is to build these relationships on a personal level, right? So. He was a Mandela Fellow here at Georgia State with the Andrew Young, and my colleague Glenn Ross is the one that was his mentor. And then building with that relationship, we developed a project with Lumkila and Yusanda, who are both faculty members at Witwatersrand. And this is a nice project because we work virtually. The students choose a research project. And what the university does for us, they actually do a matchmaking where they actually have a faculty member or a PhD student in that specific domain that actually mentors our students. And it has really elevated the experience of the students to be mentored by an expert at our partner school in South Africa, in Johannesburg. And what you are looking at here is we complement this by in-person. So when we go on a study abroad, you're looking at our students and you are looking at faculty and experts there, carrying out the conversation and guiding our students toward completing a cutting-edge project. And when we looked at the project with the students were doing before and the students that are able to do with that type of mentorship and that type of support from this wonderful faculty and partners at Witwatersrand, this is not something that you can pay for and have a third-party provider do. This is something we are able to pull off because we have this very strong partnership with our wonderful people at Witwatersrand in South Africa. And I like to mention this example right here is another example with the University of Pretoria, and this one
You're not
involves.
sharing, Murad. Maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you're not sharing.
Yes, let me make sure I'm sharing here. And
Yeah.
please
All
let
right.
me.
Now it's showing. Yep.
Okay. So the example I was talking about earlier, this is the example. These are faculty members from University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, sitting down with our students and guiding our students through their mentored research. So virtual exchange is how we start these, and in person is how we complete these when we visit. We provide a nice lunch, and this always has been one of my favorite activities on study abroad. This one is with the University of Pretoria in Pretoria, and we do a service learning. So these are young entrepreneurs who have very, very small businesses. They could be selling handicraft or things like that. These are entrepreneurs who want to kind of move from the move up the income ladder, and our students receive their projects. We work on these in a virtual setting. We try to help them. We come up with ideas of how we can support these young entrepreneurs. These are at the Memolodi Business Clinic. I know my colleague Nate Bennett also does something similar, but we love this project because our students are involved in supporting, helping, guiding these young entrepreneurs, supporting them with sometimes just an Excel sheet to keep track of cost, sometimes a marketing campaign. So these are things our students work on ahead of time. And then when we go to South Africa, you see the young entrepreneurs sitting there with our students. And in this case, it's our students that support these young entrepreneurs. So what makes this project meaningful is embedding virtual exchange in them so that we have a month or two to work on this project before we travel and then sit down with our partners. Again, this is possible because my good friends at the University of Pretoria make these available for us and make it possible for our students to engage in these high impact consulting projects. I will not talk about it. These are live cases that we've done
Yeah. Well,
with
there's another question that I'm dying to
yes.
ask before we let
Please
you
go ahead.
go.
Yes.
To basically reflect on the real life, as you put it. That's the real life at the university. So the topic I want you to kind of share your comments on, because we've got just a couple of more minutes left, would be what's the role of the related departments in the university? Such as like at GSU, for instance, we do have the Office of International Partnerships and Agreements, and similar administrative departments may exist in other universities. So that's our reality, right, in academia, when we try to come up with these innovative initiatives and try to make things move forward, etc. Especially might be challenging as our institution is bigger or gets bigger, etc. So what are your comments or suggestions to our attendees of working with the other complementary or supplementary departments, administratively in particular, at the university level?
Very good question, and this is something I think we are much more proactive about. We are fortunate in that the Georgia State University had made the conscious effort to promote virtual exchange and make it a priority.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not the only one. We are about 50 or more than 50% of all virtual exchange project at the university, at the Robinson College of Business, in terms of number of students involved and number of projects. But there are amazing virtual exchange projects with the arts and sciences, with the nursing, with education and other areas. So we benefit from excellent support. I mentioned the badges that they provide. We have a faculty affiliate who actually leads virtual exchange at the university level. I mentioned the iCollege site, the website, all these resources. So honestly, I think we probably to engage in virtual exchange at Georgia State is probably easier than anywhere else, anywhere, just because of the degree of support that we receive, the regular meeting, the guidance, and everything else. And now CETLO, our Center for Effectiveness in Teaching and Learning, is supporting the virtual exchange initiative. So now it's also the folks who are probably the best at pedagogy and learning and assessment and all of that are now the one supporting the faculty. So we've seen an elevation of virtual exchange at Georgia State, and I think it will be much easier now implementing these than ever before.
Okay, so you see, I mean, plant the seed and then grow it together with collaboration with other departments. I think that's the main takeaway. Well, I mean, we're really running short on time. I don't want to miss on another question from the attendees, which was the relationship between virtual exchange and artificial intelligence, which is like the phrase of the day, right? I mean, it's all around us. So what are your thoughts on that? Just if you can share it very briefly, please.
I mean, if anyone tells you they know exactly how AI is going to change anything, I mean, they're probably overestimating their skills and competence. Honestly, I mean, there's a lot that has been done on AI and high impact practices on project, on papers, on research, of course. As far as how AI is going to work. There's always room for people collaborating cross borders, cross cultures. AI is an amazing tool. It as a very helpful and supportive tool for research, of course, for drafting manuscripts, for for a slew of other things. Maybe AI is going to support us in terms of communicating cross cultures, with cross languages. I know now for Samsung was rolling out this, you speak in your own language and then you hear your home language on the other end. You can be talking synchronously with someone from China. I think that's wonderful. So there are ways. I think AI is going to significantly affect not just virtual exchange, but universities and what we do on day in, day out. But I can't claim that I am the expert on how AI honestly is going to.
Well, we'll probably need a series of experts to kind of go deeper
Yes.
into that topic, which we're all interested about. Well, we're out of time. We're out of time. But as a last kind of connection to something you underlined, you talked about building or starting these partnerships through organic relationships and how well it kind of develops as one venue of developing such relationships. And I would invite everyone here attending and their colleagues, again, repeating our call for the pedagogy workshop we have at the end of May, because attending that will bring you together with colleagues, like-minded colleagues from around the world, which may provide the intro to starting such an organic relationship. I'm not saying this theoretically. We've had a number of partnerships developed through colleagues attending our pedagogy workshop and meeting there, discussing and talking, and then starting it. And I've personally gone through such experiences as well. So that's a great opportunity. And Dr. Murad, as you can see, is making an open call to basically foster this with his passion and with his experience. So just some concluding remarks, Murad, as we're closing up.
Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me the chance to share some of these experiences. I want to give credit to the amazing team, of course, at the Robinson College of Business, and I want to start naming them because I'm going to forget to mention someone. But also thank you to the folks at the Office of International Initiative again for the support and the university level support for what we do from the dean's level and from the university level, and I think. As you know, as budgets get cut and as it becomes a little bit harder to implement some of these in-person experiences, I think virtual exchange, can be a tool to the rescue, where we keep going, we keep working, hoping for better days and better years ahead that support this type of impactful experiences and support our the education and support developing competencies. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about cultural awareness and diversity, and as important as those are, as amazingly wonderful as those are, it's also about creating competitive advantage. When we have our students work in teams with their counterparts in South Africa, an amazing, wonderful country, and working with India, with China, with Brazil, we develop their competencies to compete effectively in the global environment. We compete with China, we compete with Russia, we compete with Brazil, and I think virtual exchange and giving these tools to our students can make them much more effective at negotiating deals, trade, and everything else, and much more aware of their place in, on the planet and the world. And I think it also promotes that open-mindedness that's so highly needed today, probably more than ever before.
Right.
So I'm very happy with what we are doing, and we will continue doing it, regardless of what the macro environment looks like.
All right, great. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of the attendees for holding up for the overtime as well, and for the nice comments you've been putting on the chat. So we look forward to meeting you in other webinars, seeing you for our other webinars. Please do not forget to complete the survey. It's a very short one, please. That's very helpful for us going forward. And we want to make this a more interactive and engaging platform so that we all benefit from it going forward, that it provides a nice collaboration environment as it did with today. Thank you, Dr. Daghli, for your inspirational sharings and great things you're doing with your team. So see you in our next webinar and possibly in the FTIB workshop in May. Check out our website, please. Thanks for attending.